So yes, this video is titled, Why is Lithuania better than Latvia? And yes, it is a very provocative and potentially offensive title, particularly for Latvians. But really, if I were to simplify the topic of the video, we'll be talking about some of the things Lithuania is respected for when it comes to managing and nurturing economic growth. It's not just the perspective of any random person, but it comes from Latvia's former Minister of Social and Labor Affairs, Gatis Egletis. It was this economist and politician that posted a very flattering write-up about 5 reasons why Lithuania is ahead of Latvia when it comes to the state of the economy. He's not lying, and the numbers back him up. According to Eurostat, Lithuania's real GDP per capita in 2023 was 15,330 euros, while Latvia's was 13,300. I follow Eurostat on Instagram, and they put out these maps and graphs all the time, and quite often, Lithuania does better on various social and economic metrics when compared to its northern neighbor. And so, because everyone loves to compare Lithuania and Latvia, I just couldn't resist making a video on this topic based on the post of Mr. Egletis. So maybe let me just share the amazing news first. Mr. Egletis generously agreed to be interviewed for this video. And even better, his Lithuanian counterpart and existing friend of the channel, Vytautas Šilinskas, was able to join us too. In case you don't know, he's Lithuania's outgoing Minister of Social Security and Labor. But let's go back to where it all started. The 5-point social media post from Mr. Egletis. Made public on X, and I think LinkedIn as well, and then auto-translated and slightly reworded by me, this is what it has to say. Why is Lithuania so strongly ahead of us when it comes to the economy? Number 1, business/trading mentality and entrepreneurship, not being afraid to make decisions, is built into the self-confidence of Lithuanians right from school. Number 2, it's been over 7 years, but Lithuania significantly reduced the labor tax burden, thereby helping the manufacturing sector to attract labor and foreign investments, especially after COVID, when many Western companies were looking for opportunities to reorient production from China to Europe, for example, the Kaunas-Klaipėda industrial zone. Number 3, smart cooperation between the Vilnius municipality, the Bank of Lithuania, and the Lithuanian government. This made it possible around 10 years ago to create competitive business service centers in Vilnius. For example, Danske Bank, Swedbank IT, Barclays, Moody's, Nasdaq, etc. This later grew with financial technology investments, the largest being Revolut, especially after the massive relocation of Belarusian and Ukrainian engineers and IT experts to Vilnius. Number 4. In Lithuania, the civil service/state administration is not as united with one ruling party as it is here. Because of this, there is more pressure on the efficiency of the bureaucracy. In Lithuania, after every Seimas election, the party in power has changed, and so the high civil service cannot rely on a long-term political roof. They have to get stuck much more often. According to my experience, the upper and middle civil service in Lithuania was already better prepared, more professional, and more result-oriented around 10 years ago. And finally, number 5. Latvia's business environment was built for a long time on the transit and non-resident banking sectors, in which the old networks of KGB agents continue to operate. Yes, we have the most of them in the Baltics. While in Lithuania, industrialization aimed at Western export markets continued, and huge local Lithuanian capital accumulated, which later, patriotic Lithuanians invested in new investment projects in the country. Meanwhile, our offshore financial sector collapsed around 2018, but the equally offshore transit after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. For now, I don't see any convincing industry champions who would be able to raise Latvia's economy to a new level in the short term. P.S. Lithuanians have historically called Latvians žirgo galva, hardly a compliment. However, in basketball, we finally beat the Lithuanians. So for the many Lithuanians that watch my videos regularly, what do you think of the points laid out by Mr. Egletis? I asked him what prompted him to make the post, and with outgoing Lithuanian Minister Šilinskas in attendance, we had a good chat about all of these points. Here's what we discussed.
As you probably know, we the Baltic states, we like to compare each other on almost any topic, any subject, and economy, of course, is one of the main important topics. And for us in Latvia, we are very used to the idea that, well, Estonians, for many reasons, that they've done better economically and financially. Both because of their proximity to Nordic countries. They're almost considered as a Nordic country because of their business contacts with Sweden and Finland. For us, that was understandable. But Around 10 years ago, there was a shift also in regard to how Lithuania is doing versus Latvia economically around year 2013 to 2014, and since then we have seen this wide income gap divergence. If you look at GDP per capita and purchasing power parity, Latvia now is at the very bottom of the European Union. Only Bulgaria and Greece is doing worse, and Lithuania now has jumped up to the middle and basically competing with such countries as Spain and Italy and other for these basically wealth indicators. And also very interesting to me was also the World Happiness Index, where Lithuania managed to get in the top 20 in the world. And for me, that's a very important index, because World Happiness Index is not only this pure economic GDP indicator, which does not maybe capture so good the quality of life indicators. But this World Happiness Index, it shows nicely, especially for instance, young people in Lithuania, I think are the happiest people in the world, and that shows why, because probably there are good work opportunities, there's economic freedom, there's all kind of freedom, and the younger generation, they appreciate it. So basically in all these key economic indicators, Latvia is falling behind. That's why I see there's such an interest also in Latvia about what I wrote, and I'm sure a lot of Lithuanians are happy because they see that, well, they've done better things in the past maybe 10 years. But we need to look harder at ourselves in Latvia, and we need to draw some conclusions that if we continue this path, we will get further behind, and we need to change something.
So we asked Minister Šilinskas what he thought about those points. I mean, it was him who shared it, and that's how I discovered it. So I already knew he was more or less in agreement, but here's what he had to say.
I was really glad of Mr. Eglitis' perspective, because in Lithuania we are usually focused on the problems and the issues that are facing us, rather than on the achievements that we have made previously. So it was really good recap, the good things that we have achieved in Lithuania. For example, the attracting the business centers 10 years or more ago, Barclays, now Moody's, Danske Bank, and so on, currently attracting the fintech sector. And the idea, what has helped in Lithuania, I would say, was the right people in the right time, in the right position. More than 10 years ago, the previous government, Andrius Kubilius, he has put a lot of effort to attract the Barclays as the prime minister, and as far as I heard, and other members of the government. So the Barclays have moved out to India or somewhere else, but the talent that they have raised, it's still here. And it also has attracted other companies to Lithuania, which are still working here. For the fintech, it was the leader of the central bank who had this business-minded approach, because usually the controlling institutions think that the less business is better because you have less subjects to control. The more subjects, more problems, the more work to do, the more mistakes you can make. See, he had different approach. He tried to attract new businesses in Lithuania, which is unusual for the controlling institution. And this has worked because he went on the road trips with the Invest in Lithuania. He presented himself to the businesses. He said, come to Lithuania, we'll help you to get license here in Lithuania. We will control you, but we will help you to get license here. And this, of course, has attracted the businesses. It has attracted the capital, the talent, which really helps to boost the economy. So that's really nice. For the happiness index, it's important not only where you stand, but how is the trend. Our economy is lower, for example, than it's in the UK, right? But the trend is better. And we see that Lithuanians are currently returning from UK to Lithuania. The whole 4 years, I think, more Lithuanians have returned to Lithuania than they have left Lithuania. And because they see that, okay, life is good and it's getting better. And I think it's not only the happiness index, but we are also currently #1 in Lithuania on consumer expectations. And expectations, again, drives economy because people are consuming, people are investing. We have managed to overcome the crisis over the last 4 years really good. Not only that we did not lost our economic capacity, but we have improved it. For example, let's say COVID. Okay, we have closed, but we were the second in Europe to recover. Our economy was the second. And continued to grow. Okay, the Belarusian crisis, which we mentioned, the IT companies moved to Lithuania, so we are not only lost, but we also gained some talent in Lithuania. War in Ukraine, Russia's aggression against Ukraine. We were among the first who allowed Ukrainians to work in Lithuania, and we have among the highest percentage of Ukrainians who are working in Lithuania. More than 50% of war refugees are working in Lithuania. Energy crisis. Okay, the energy crisis. We had the LNG terminal, which we have built earlier. So we were helping to supply the gas not only to Lithuania, but to our neighbors as well. And a lot of investment into renewable energy during this crisis. I'm not sure who said this, but you should never waste a good crisis. So we managed not to waste the crisis, and each time came out stronger than we were previously. So that's why I think the people are expecting it doesn't matter what crisis will come further, we will manage to overcome and become stronger.
I think we are very slow in taking the decisions that matter for businesses, because for any foreign investor to consider investing, there's a checklist that you have to do, with banks, whether you're able to be open a bank account, what's your tax system, whether you will get all the building permits, where the children will go to school. So basically, there's a long list of topics that municipality, government, the central bank, they have to take care of those boxes, and if not, then the investor will turn to Poland, will turn to Lithuania, to other countries. So we have been very, very slow taking those decisions, and also all this anti-money laundering. It went too far, It got to the extreme where we even had the joke here in Latvia that the U.S. ambassador here in Riga, he could not open a bank account here. And that was true because he said it on TV. I'm here the second month already, and I have not been able to open a bank account here. Imagine if a U.S. ambassador cannot open a bank account, what should the ordinary investor from Finland, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, or any other country would? It's probably a nightmare. What I wanted to maybe get back a little bit to these 5 points. Actually, the first point, and I would say even maybe the most important one, is cultural. I think the Lithuanian mentality, we are different. Latvians and Lithuanians, we're different, just as Estonians are different, And I think the Lithuanian mentality is much more geared towards more ambition, higher achievement. This business drive it's much more in your bloodstream than it is in Latvians. I've experienced on many occasions that Lithuanians are just more goal-driven, maybe more confident of themselves, because we Latvians, we're no worse, but we're sometimes too timid. And this comes already from school age. You have to put it in your education system that people feel confident of what they do. They're confident and not afraid to take decisions. And that's Lithuanians are better than that. And also, of course, historically, if you look, Lithuania was a Grand Duchy of Lithuania. Was a local superpower. While the Latvians, we were for 700 years under the German rule. So we sometimes feel like we are the succumbed people. Well, Lithuanians are the proud Grand Duchy. So there are many reasons, of course, but I think this. In the background, it's this culturally, mentally, also it plays a big difference.
There is a difference. I'm currently Googling, and I find out that, the Hofstede Culture Factor Group country comparison tool, it says that Latvia has 9 points motivation towards achievement and success. Lithuania has 19. So I'd say more than double than Latvians have. But it's low on both countries. So I would like to have it higher in Lithuania as well. But Mr. Eglitis is right about there, at least at some extent.
for last 20 years, basically, I've been involved with Latvian economy and also Lithuanian to some extent macroeconomically. I think that the quality of public service in general, top, middle level. I've come across a lot of Lithuanian officials, from different ministries, and my overall assessment is that they are better prepared, sort of in terms of their skill set, in terms of their work ethic and attitude to work, and the attitude towards goal. Because in Latvia, sometimes I see there's hundreds of procedures, hundreds of working groups, but there's no goal orientation. What are we doing this for? So in general, I think the public service is also, in our case, a problem to fix.
The discussion made Latvia seem so far behind Lithuania. Maybe that is actually the case on a very quantitative and objective level, but it did kind of leave me feeling just a little bad for Lithuania's Baltic brothers/sisters. So I asked them both about Latvia and what they thought were some things that Lithuania could learn from their northern neighbor.
Maybe one sector where we are somewhat leading is aviation. I would say Riga is very well connected, and of course that helps also attracting foreign investor. That helps attracting tourism, but it also has a downside. You probably know our company Air Baltic. Yes, they have grown very, very much in the last 10 years. They are now they employed some 3,000 people, and then they have hubs now in Finland and in Switzerland and in Germany. And but whether they will be successful, we don't know yet. Latvia has invested a lot in the airline, but whether it will bring the dividends, I'm not so sure. It's not like we are with the fintech sector in Vilnius, where Revolut is already, I think, the third biggest taxpayer in the country. So it was a very good investment to get them.
I mentioned that Riga is probably a better tourist attraction. They attract more tourists. We can learn that. And the point I'm focusing now is that the housing affordability. Riga has much better housing affordability than Vilnius. And this has recently, let's say, decreased in recent 2 years. Now this year it's increasing slightly, but we are still not near to the levels that Riga has. And that's a huge issue in Vilnius because the housing is really expensive.
Mr. Šilinskas mentioned that it's normal for people of the country to focus on the bad things and what could be better. And I think I've seen a lot of this in the YouTube comments of my videos as well, from Lithuanians. I don't think that's a bad thing in and of itself. I think it's good to never settle and to always aim to do things better while trying to identify the things that need to be changed. However, like he said, it's flattering and refreshing to get an outsider's perspective on what is going well in Lithuania. I was never under the illusion that Lithuania and Latvia were like identical twins, but it was quite surprising to discover just how different they are economically. And so hopefully you learned as much as I did from this interesting discussion. It was such an honor to be able to talk to both ministers/ex-ministers at the same time and to hear this back and forth of Latvian and Lithuanian perspectives. So thank you to Mr. Eglitis and Mr. Šilinskas for their generosity of time and energy in making this video possible. And of course, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. If you enjoy the videos on this channel and want to support my work, you can either buy me a coffee with a one-time donation or join my Patreon with a monthly membership to get access to videos along with other perks. There's a link down in the description for you to check out. If neither works for you, just liking and commenting would be lovely. Thanks.